Bonjour et bienvenue tout le monde. Je m'appelle Renaissance Marie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about... shit if I know. I filmed 3 videos, I've missed a week, and I just do not feel creative, I don't feel rancy, and I just don't feel like the words are just not coming. When I remember the feeling of making my other pro-black videos that I've made, there's just it just comes to me and I can just see the words and the argument and the story I want to tell, and then I just sit down and then I look at the camera and then I do it, and I just don't have that spark right now, and I don't exactly know where it went, I don't exactly know where my creativity went. I had this big creative burst, and then I did something with it, and then I did it, and then I said, okay, I'm done with that, and then it just fizzled. The articulation and the drive just has not been there. Nothing has inspired me recently. And so today I think I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna hold on, I'm setting my timer. I'm just gonna talk for a bit and see what comes out of it. One thing that I will say though is that recently Joe Biden announced that his running mate is Kamala Harris. And let me tell you, not a fan. But then again, I'm not sure if there's anyone that he could have picked as his running mate that's going to make me happy. I mean, I think it'd be very difficult for there to be something that I liked about his ticket. I think one thing that's particularly frustrating me is that people are kind of boasting Kamala Harris to be the first, I think she might be the first female VP if they do win. I will look on that. And of course she's a woman of color, and so liberals, or good buddies liberals, are all pretty excited about this idea of a black woman VP, blah blah blah. And everyone's like, aren't you so excited about that? And I'm just like, no, she has a bad track record. She is a cop. I mean, not to say that I don't trust her, I think I wouldn't trust her to hold a $10 bill or something like that. But she literally called Joe Biden a dirty old racist, and he called her a corrupt cop on national television multiple times for months during the Democratic debates. And now they're supposed to be this buddy running mate ticket situation, and that, it's giving me sellout. It's giving me a little bit of Uncle Tomness, it's giving me a little bit of white assimilation, it's giving me a lot of protecting class interest. It's just not giving me, black community, I got you, in a way that I need it to. And I don't think Kamala Harris could ever give me, that sisterhood that I need from her, simply because she's jailed many of her sisters. You can look at her track record as a prosecutor when she was the Attorney General for the state of California, home reppin', and she criminalized educational truancy. It does not take a genius to realize that truancy in the educational system, it's much more tied to someone's economic background and their material resources than it is for their criminality. Girl, what was that about? And then the whole thing about, not allowing evidence that could possibly get an innocent person off of, death row, and sending trans women to men's prisons. So on many levels, I do not like Kamala Harris. And she might be down with the gays now because she's from California and she wants to get that yes queen vote, but that's just not for me. I think white liberals are really, really excited to vote for a black woman, and I think cis white gay people are really, really excited about this ticket, and that's just not for me. I'm not interested. And there's this whole thing about vote, and is Biden going to win, and is this going to be the thing that brings people back to the Democratic Party, and all that bullshit. And really the issue is that people who voted for Obama, who voted for Trump, were most likely white, working class, non-college educated people who wanted a change from the Democratic from how American politics was going before, they thought Clinton was too establishment and Trump was their answer, and if you're white and working class, the exclusionary rhetoric that Trump spills out daily was probably really, really, really attractive to you. And so everyone is just like, Biden could be the person to bring that back. But the real issue of working class white people, lower class, non-college educated white people, like, their issue isn't to vote for the old white pedophile with an R at the end of their name or an old white pedophile with a D after their name. It's the structural and, like, systemic oppression and injustices that, like, in the class system that keeps them down. So, like, whether they vote for Trump because they think he's the answer, whether they vote for Biden because they think that he's the answer. Either way, both of those administrations are not going to bring the structural change in order to actually help, you know, the people who are seen as swing voters. You know, white folks who are working class, who are non-college educated, still need the systemic change that, you know, politicians who advocate for black and brown working class folks need. You know, they still need access to having, you know, healthcare, and they still need politicians who are willing to, like, bolster the strength of unions, and they still need politicians who are going to tax the rich so that working class people can have benefits without facing high tax rates. I think people are trying to press this idea that Biden with a black woman is this crazy progressive idea, but, like, none of their policies actually speak for a progressive audience or for a leftist demographic. And not leftism aside, their policies and their aim and what they've shown to the American people also does not bode well for their argument of bringing any structural change that is actually going to help working class families who did waffle between the Democratic and Republican Party. And, like, I don't see how they are the answer, which I haven't really been able to talk, like, in depth about that, but I've just seen a lot of white people kind of, like, co-opting Kamala Harris as, like, this icon and, like, oh, aren't we so great for supporting a black woman? And I'm like, she's a black woman who's a transphobic cop. Like, no. Like, but, like, I just get this sense that, so many middle-class white people want Biden to win, and particularly with Kamala as his VP, so that they, like, no longer feel guilt about, like, not having a Republican president and, like, having to, like, educate themselves. You know, like, I kind of get this idea that, like, because they know he's going to protect, like, class interests in terms of the ruling class and people who are financially stable and, like, white people, they're gonna, like, point to, like, having a Democratic president and, like, a black woman as VP and just be like, it's gonna be like Obama again, where, like, it's like, there's no more racism, look, we have a black president. And then white people are just gonna go back to being like, solved it, did it, voted Democrat, like, I don't have to, like, worry about anything anymore. And that, like, doesn't sit right with me. I don't like people using elections as, like, proof of their progressiveness, because, like, elections are not progressive, particularly the way that the United States does their elections. Like, you can look at Hasan Minhaj's episode on We're Doing Elections Wrong, and, like, it really breaks down, like, there's no Democrat, like, you cannot call what we have democracy currently. Pressuring people to vote is pretty tone deaf when a large percent of the black population does not have the right to vote, because you lose the right to vote if you are in prison or were in prison or have, like, a felony, I believe. If you lose the right to vote and people say, oh, like, you let down the country or you're not a true Democrat or whatever, like, voting is the only way to stop Trump, and then you have all these people who either have lost their right to vote or live in states or districts or wherever that have major voting suppression for working class black and brown folks, then it's pretty insensitive to have this, like universal campaign to vote. Also the fact that voting in the United States is not a federal holiday, so that means that people are working on voting days. The fact that because voting and taking the day off to vote is a financial burden on the American people, the loudest voices in American politics, both on voting day and just because we live in a neoliberal capitalist society, are the people who are white and monetarily privileged, which isn't democracy. And my timer went off. I spent most of this time talking about the Biden and Kamala ticket and my views on them. That wasn't exactly my intention, but that's kind of the only thing that's on my mind. I might make a video about feminism because of the podcast I have been listening to a lot about that. And feminist and film, I think I've been watching a lot of movies, and man oh man, like, there is a most definite reason for why all of my favorite movies have been made in the past 5 years, because women depicted in film before 5 years ago was absolute shite and just generally unenjoyable for me as a critical feminist media consumer. So maybe I'll make a video about that, maybe I won't. We'll see, but I hope you guys like this video. This was genuinely, I mean, all of my videos are unscripted and just me kind of talking off the cuff. I've been feeling quite uninspired and uncreative recently, and so I just kind of needed to like word vomit, and I think this kind of might have been the thing to like break the seal. Maybe if I just keep talking at the camera, eventually I will think of something creative and a good video will come out of it. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, evening, night, or whatever, whenever you watch this video, and merci and ciao.